Well, hello. Welcome again to Robyn's Reviews. We are still covering A Song for You by Robyn Crawford. Today we're going to cover chapters 5 and 6. Chapter 5 is The Future is Now. All right, so we're at 1982. Robyn's going back to college at Monmouth College, so she is a senior. And she states that every time she talks to Whitney, Whitney starts and ends each conversation with, "I wish you were here." So Robyn drops out of college short of like one semester from graduating. So her mother, of course, was not pleased. Okay, which no one would be pleased with those type of decisions. But at this time, Robyn really wanted to focus on helping Whitney with her career because they were just getting ready to get everything started up. So Robyn said she asked Whitney, and Whitney was like, "Well, that's a decision you'll have to make." But Robyn said when she finally made the decision, Whitney was ecstatic. She was, "Yay, glad you dropped out of college." So again, Robyn trying to help Whitney with her career, and she's still trying to get her career off the ground. So Robyn talks about how, of course, we talked earlier about how Whitney was doing some modeling gigs. Robyn dropped out of college, so her mother was like, "Well, I'm going out of here every morning, young lady. You're not going to lay around here doing nothing." So she got a job as well where did she get a job? At the airlines, okay? Also, she would help take Whitney to various modeling gigs, okay, from time to time. Robyn's mother noticed that Robyn was staying out all night. She could see a behavior change. So one day her mom said, "Sit down, I want to talk to you. What's going on?" So she was honest with her mother. She told her that she and Whitney had been doing cocaine and marijuana. Her mother was astounded. Robyn had never done this before. She calls Cissy Houston to tell her, "Do you know what our daughters are doing? What our kids are doing?" And Robyn's mother was really upset. Robyn said when she saw she and Whitney got together later that evening, and Whitney was like, "Yeah, my mother said something about it." All nonchalantly. Robyn, when she got back to her house, her mother had some drug counselors there. So as you can see, if you compare Robyn's mother to Whitney's mother, they both handle this situation totally different. So anyway, and of course they were saying, I don't know if I mentioned, Whitney was always saying, Whitney and Robyn, "Oh, we can't take cocaine where we're going," but, well, they kept doing it. All right, so anyway, Robyn continued her drug usage. And even after she met with the drug counselors, her mother did not play. Robyn said she went home the next day and her key would not work. Her mother had changed the locks. Oh, good for her. Okay, so anyway, Robyn was homeless for like a month. She was staying with a friend, a guy who coached a summer basketball league, for a couple of weeks, and then she stayed at Whitney's yard in a rental car. And when Cissy left, Whitney would let her come in the house, and so she lived like that this went on for like a month, and finally she went. She got her a job at Piedmont Airlines is where she got a job. She apologized to her mother, but of course she kept doing the drugs. So then this is where she mentions that. She and Whitney, would get together and talk about, what the future was going to hold, so far as Whitney's career was concerned. And also, Whitney signed on with Dionne Warwick's management company. Okay, so they talk about that. And, okay. Also, they talked about, this is where they really start talking about Whitney and Robyn, they decided to get their own place. But before this, Whitney went by Robyn's mother's apartment and said, "I have something for you." It was a Bible, and in the Bible, Whitney had, written her some little notes, and she placed a box in her hand, and she said, we can't be physical anymore because it would make their journey more difficult. Now, remember, folks, this is the early 80s, so completely different from what we're dealing with now, okay? So Whitney, they said they would still be friends, but they would just stop the physical part of their relationship because that was not accepted in the 80s, okay? So anyway, again, after that happened, they decided they were still going to be close. And then they started looking. Well, Robyn says the only thing that changed was the physical intimacy. There are a lot of people who beg to differ. People who were with them during those years and up to 2000, they're saying something differently. But that's what Robyn says in her book. Okay, so anyway, they talk about their first apartment and how they struggled, but they made it. And so that's pretty much chapter 5. Robyn was just saying they were struggling, but they made it. They bought some little, furniture, and it wasn't fancy, but it was all right. Chapter 6 starts talking about Nippy or Whitney when she went on the Merv Griffin show, and she was on there singing Home, I think originally done by Stephanie Mills. And she starts talking about Clive Davis, trying to get Whitney's name out there. This is where they really start talking about him. And also, this is where Whitney, Clive Davis asked her to fly out to LA, and she was going to do some songs with Jermaine Jackson. And then, like I said, now Whitney and Robyn were tight, but she noticed, that Whitney seemed distant because when she first got there, they would call and they were talking. Then the calls started changing, and even when Whitney came home, she could tell that something had changed. But she pretty much knew in her mind what was going on while Whitney was in L.A. And then Jermaine, he was married at the time, and he was telling Whitney, he was miserable in his marriage, and they were going to divorce. Same old story that men have been telling since the beginning of time, basically. And he promised Whitney, this is when the Jacksons were going on that tour. Which tour was it? That's when they were going on their, let me see. Was it the Victory Tour? Anyway, they were going to Madison Square Garden. This was in 1984. And Jermaine promised Whitney some tickets. So, Robyn was happy, Whitney was happy. The concert came and went. They did not hear from Jermaine, so pretty much that effectively ended their relationship because he was calling Whitney after that, and she was just like, no. And this Robyn also talks about, her brother being in a really serious accident, and it took him a lot of time to convalesce, and the brother was in the military as well. And Whitney was really there for her. So in these early years, they were both really there for each other. So that, she stresses that. Also, this chapter, Robyn talks about there was an airline pilot that she went out with on a date. She brought him home. And Whitney was like rude to this guy. And then when Robyn came back home, she was like, what was that about? And Whitney was like, I just didn't want him in this house. Okay, so pretty much, folks, those are chapters 5 and 6. And if you have not read this book, you are missing a treat. So I hope you enjoyed today's content. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any ideas of some live chat events, some things you want me to discuss, leave your information in the comment section. I always respond to my comments. And thank you today for watching Robyn's Reviews. Also, before I leave, another excellent YouTuber, if you go to the Shut Up Ashley YouTube channel, she has some excellent information on Whitney Houston. She's already finished with this book, and then she's on Bobby Brown's book, Every Little Step, the same book that I'll be covering when I'm done with this one. Thank you for watching.